Should you buy a 440 brake horsepower V8 Mustang in an age of EVs and ULEZ restrictions? Let's find out. I'm Tom Jervis and you're watching Auto Express. So here we are, the 7th generation Mustang here in the UK in right-hand drive, guys. Now, it's not to be confused with the fully electric Ford Mustang Mach-E, which is a kind of coupe SUV. This is the full-fat Mustang with the 5-litre V8 engine. Walking around the car properly, and you'll notice that the design of the Mustang has actually changed very little in the last 70 years it's been on sale. I mean, it's still got that iconic Mustang shape with that huge bonnet and sweeping rear end, and then you've got these retro style tail lights that pulse when you put on the indicators. But something I have noticed is there's actually no Ford logos around the car. I mean, you come down to the wheels and no, there's no Ford logo there. It's the Mustang, and you come alongside and it's a 5.0 for the 5-litre V8, and then even on the front there's no Ford on the bonnet. There's just that Mustang logo. In fact, the only Ford logo I can find on the car is up here on the windscreen. But coming round the back, you see it's got GT on the boot lid, and that brings us on to specs. So there's two models available. So there's the GT, which is this one, which is actually the base model here in the UK, although abroad in America there are other versions available. But this starts from around £56,000 and gives you around 440 brake horsepower from its 5-litre naturally aspirated V8. You can also get the top of the range Dark Horse model, so that gives you an extra 17 brake horsepower and some performance-y bits and whatnot, and perhaps most important to some, you get a bigger rear wing than this. But however, it's 10 grand more than the base car. You're not really going to notice 17 brake horsepower, so we recommend save yourself 10 grand and stick with the base GT, as you're not going to feel shortchanged with the power that's on offer. Right, before I continue, just a quick public service announcement. If you're going to buy a Mustang, do not buy it in this colour. So you've got this kind of metallic grey here, which is incredibly boring. If you're looking to buy a subtle sports car, buy a BMW M2. Otherwise, get the Mustang, get a bright colour. There's a wonderful bright blue. There's even a Magneta if you want to go full Barbie spec. But yeah, spend the money, don't be boring. Moving on. The first thing you notice when stepping inside this 7th generation Mustang is the quality. It's actually okay in here. Now, Mustangs have been known, well, especially the previous gen Mustang, for its rather cheap feeling interior, but this doesn't feel cheap at all. You know, on the dash we've got this kind of carbon fibre weave effect, and then this leather trim with stitching along here, and quite like the retro Mustang logo. Speaking of retro, you've got a couple of retro design traits in here. So for starters, well, can you call it retro nowadays? A manual gearbox. This is a bit of a rarity, isn't it? We'll talk about this later, but you can either choose one of these or you can choose an automatic option. Then you've got these kind of fake metal door pulls that do feel a little bit cheap. There are a few cheap feeling plastics in here. I mean, especially this plastic on the steering wheel, but overall, things are a lot better than the old car. What I will point out is these seats. While they are rather nice, these are actually the base seats. I will point out that this is leather, but on the inside it's vinyl. I haven't heard of using vinyl seats since the 60s when the Mustang came out, but they're still using it. Something they're not using anymore, though, is the old Mustang's infotainment system, and you've got this new dual screen layout, which is very modern, of course, and Ford's system, it's okay. It's relatively responsive. As you see, I'm kind of touching it and it's thinking about it for a moment and then responding. There's no physical home buttons really. All you've got down here is a row of touch sensitive buttons, one of which is my favourite. If you tap this pony icon, it brings you to the My Mustang page, which allows you to configure quite a few things. One of the handiest features in the My Mustang page is the exhaust mode button. Now, that's not anything new to anyone that's owned a sports car. However, it does allow you to adjust it before you turn the vehicle on. And if I get rid of this vehicle data page, it will show that you can actually do a quiet exhaust mode. So if you're starting the car up in the morning, it'll be much quieter. It sounds like this. However, if you don't care what your neighbours think, or if it's the middle of the day, you can put the exhaust in track mode, and it sounds like this. Another favourite feature of mine are the customisable dials. So they're currently in their standard setting, but you can put it in racetrack setting, where you get a massive tachometer across the top. But my favourites are, of course, you can have the classic Mustang, the Fox body Mustang, or even the SVT Cobra. Oh yeah. Now, one thing I want to mention before we set off is this, the handbrake. Now, it may look like a traditional manual handbrake, but no, it's electronic, and it's actually a pain to use. So you push it down to disengage it, and you pull it up to apply it, and it's really quite heavy. Now, Ford says that you can do drifts with this thing, but I think most people won't be using that and will just find that a bit of an annoyance. For the sake of covering all bases, I've taken one for the team and I've got in the back of the Mustang, and it's like being in a cocoon, and not in a good way. You've got these 2 bucket seats in the back, and they've got no headrest, so when you lean back, you're kind of looking up to the heavens, and unless you ask the front passenger nicely to move their chair forward, you're going to have your legs crushed. I mean, I've got the chair forward quite a long way, and I've got a bit of room, which is fine, but as soon as someone gets in, that's going to come back, and I'm going to need to visit A&E. Elsewhere, you know, there's not really much back here. It's mainly meant for the front passengers. Back here is really meant for an occasional journey, or if you're taking kids around, it's fine. The main problem is getting into the back and getting out of the back, because while there is a handy lever to fold the chair forward, to slide it forward, you have to use the electronic mechanism, and that is so slow. Anyway, to the boot. Right, can you use a Mustang every day? The answer is, if you're happy to pay for the petrol, yes. The boot in the Mustang is actually pretty spacious. I mean, if you take out my coat and my rucksack, you'll show that actually, you've got a pretty nice wide space in there. This part over here is taken up by a subwoofer, but you do have a little bit of space here. The problem is how narrow the opening is. So you're not going to be getting the largest of items in here, but if you want to get in something long, you can fold down the rear seats, which is really handy. Muscle cars have over the years garnered themselves a reputation of being blisteringly fast in a straight line, but pretty rubbish when it comes to the corners, and the Mustang's no different. However, it has been improving over the years, and this latest model is really a big step up. The front end feels actually surprisingly poised and ready to tuck into corners, while the steering is nicely weighted and responsive. Only when you're pushing on do you actually realise the car's limitations compared to, say, a Porsche Cayman or a BMW M2. It's so good, in fact, that it gives you the confidence to go much faster than you thought you probably could, with the sound of the V8 being absolutely glorious, as you rarely get an unstifled sound of a naturally aspirated engine these days. The manual gearbox is really slick and easy to use, and that's a good thing. How dreadful the 10-speed auto is. We recommend steering clear of that. Oh, and if you're wondering, we managed to get an average of around 30 mpg while driving on a mix of town and country roads. Don't expect this thing to be a Toyota Prius, but it's not as bad as you might expect either. So, what do we think of the new Ford Mustang? Well, if you're looking for the most dynamically capable sports car out there, this isn't it. However, if you are looking for something with all of the character, all of the theatre of a true American muscle car that's also quite fun to drive on a twisty road, then the Mustang delivers. And we're so happy Ford has brought it over to this side of the pond. Just choose it in a different colour.